For 40 years, an old man lived next door. My parents hated him. Built a 10-foot fence. Sued him 3 times. He is dangerous, they said. When he died, I was the only one at his funeral. Then the lawyer handed me his will. The funeral was on a Tuesday. Gray sky, light rain, the kind of October day that feels like the world itself is mourning. I stood at the edge of the cemetery, watching 2 men I did not know lower a casket into the ground. The priest read from a book he had probably read from 1,000 times before, his words automatic, impersonal. There were no flowers except the ones the funeral home had provided as part of their basic package. No music, no eulogy, no mourners lined up to share memories of a life well lived. Just me, the priest, and the old man who had lived next door to my parents for 40 years. I did not cry. I did not know if I was supposed to. I did not know if I had earned the right. But I stayed until the end, until the last shovel of dirt covered the casket. Until the workers packed up their equipment and drove away. Until the priest shook my hand and offered condolences that felt hollow because he had never known the man he was burying. And then the lawyer appeared. He was young, maybe 30, wearing a suit that was too big for him and carrying a leather briefcase that looked older than he was. He walked across the wet grass toward me, his shoes squelching with each step. And I remember thinking that he looked nervous, like he was carrying something heavy, like he knew what he was about to do would change everything. Mr. Webb, Marcus Webb. Yes. My name is Daniel Patterson. I was Mr. Hartley's attorney. He gestured toward the fresh grave. I was hoping I would find you here. How did you know I would come? He smiled, a sad smile. He said you would. He said you were the only one who would. That was when he handed me the envelope. I should explain. My name is Marcus Webb and I am a high school history teacher in Hartford, Connecticut. 41 years old, divorced for 3 years now, no kids. I spend my days teaching sophomores about the Civil War and the Great Depression and all the other events that shaped our country. I try to make them understand that history is not just dates and names in a textbook. It is people. Ordinary people making choices that ripple forward through time affecting generations they will never meet. I never thought I would be standing in a cemetery holding an envelope from a dead man about to discover that my own history was built on a lie. That every truth I thought I knew about my family was a carefully constructed fiction designed to hide something monstrous. But I am getting ahead of myself. The old man's name was Walter Hartley. He moved into the house next door to my parents in 1984, the year I was born. For as long as I could remember, he had been there, a fixture of the neighborhood, a constant presence. His house was a small Cape Cod, white with green shutters, always neatly maintained, even as he grew older and moving became harder. His lawn was always mowed, his gutters were always clean. His car, a beige Toyota that must have been 20 years old, sat in the same spot in his driveway every single day. And for as long as I could remember, my parents had hated him. I do not use that word lightly. Hate is a strong word, a word I try to teach my students to use carefully. There is a difference between dislike and hate, between annoyance and hate, between indifference and hate. Hate is active. Hate takes energy. Hate is a fire that has to be constantly fed. My parents, Richard and Catherine Webb, fed that fire for 40 years. They never spoke to him. Not once, not a single word in 4 decades of living 15 feet apart. If they saw him in the driveway getting his mail, they would turn and go back inside. Even if they were in the middle of something. If they passed him on the street while walking the dog, they would cross to the other side. Pulling the leash so hard the dog would yelp. If he waved, they would look through him like he was made of glass. They built a 10-foot fence between the properties, the tallest the city code would allow. My father spent an entire weekend constructing it, refusing any help, driving each post into the ground with a fury I had never seen in him before. When it was done, he stood back and looked at it with satisfaction, like he had built a fortress to keep out an invading army. There, he said, now we do not have to see him. They sued him 3 times. The first lawsuit was over a tree branch that hung over the property line. The branch was maybe 2 feet into our airspace, completely harmless, but my father hired a lawyer and took Walter to court. The judge ruled in Walter's favor, calling the lawsuit frivolous, but my father appealed. He lost the appeal, too. The legal fees cost him $8,000. He did not care. It is the principle, he said. The second lawsuit was over Walter's dog, a gentle old golden retriever named Biscuit. My mother claimed the dog had threatened her, had growled and lunged at her while she was gardening. I was 12 at the time, and I knew it was a lie. I had seen Biscuit many times through gaps in the fence before it was fully reinforced. The dog was ancient, arthritic, barely able to walk, let alone lunge at anyone. But my parents pushed forward with the lawsuit anyway. The court ordered Walter to get rid of the dog. I remember watching from my bedroom window as an animal control van pulled up to his house. I remember seeing Walter come out with Biscuit in his arms, tears streaming down his face. I remember him kissing the dog's head before handing him over. I cried that night. I did not know why my parents were doing this. I just knew it was wrong. The third lawsuit was over some drainage issue that I am still not sure actually existed. My father claimed that Walter's landscaping was directing water onto our property, damaging the foundation. Engineers were hired. Reports were filed. The case dragged on for 2 years. Walter never fought back. Not really. He showed up to court dates. He paid whatever fines were ordered. He cut the tree branch. He gave away the dog. He adjusted his landscaping. And through it all, he stayed. He never moved. He never sold the house. He never retreated. Why do you hate him so much? I asked my mother once when I was maybe 10 years old. We were in the kitchen and I had been watching her glare out the window at Walter's house with an expression that frightened me. What did he do? Her face went cold. Not angry, not sad, just cold like a door slamming shut. Like someone had flipped a switch and turned off whatever warmth had been there before. He is a dangerous man, Marcus. You are never to speak to him, never to go near him, never to even look at him. Do you understand? But why? What makes him dangerous? Did he hurt someone? Some things are not for children to understand. Just trust your parents. Stay away from him. But Mom, I said stay away from him. Her voice was sharp now. Sharper than I had ever heard it. If I ever catch you talking to that man, there will be consequences. Serious consequences. Do you understand me? Yes, Mom. Good. Now go do your homework. But I did not stay away. Not completely. It started when I was 7. I was playing in the backyard, throwing a tennis ball against the fence. Bored and lonely. The way only children can be bored and lonely on a summer afternoon. My parents were inside arguing about something. They argued a lot back then. About money, about work, about whose turn it was to pick me up from school, about things I did not understand and things I understood all too well. The ball went over the fence into Mr. Hartley's yard. I stood there frozen, my heart pounding. My mother's warnings echoed in my head. Dangerous. Never go near him. Serious consequences. But I loved that ball. My grandfather had given it to me, my mother's father, the only grandparent I had ever known. He had died the year before, and that ball was one of the only things I had left of him. The other 3 grandparents were dead, or at least that is what I had been told. My father's parents had died before I was born, he said. There were no photos of them, no stories about them, nothing. I looked at the fence. It was solid wood, no gaps, no way to see through. But near the bottom, where the fence met the ground, there was a small hole, maybe 6 in across, a knot in the wood that had fallen out over time, or maybe an animal had dug there. Big enough to see through, big enough to reach through. I got on my knees in the grass, not caring about the dirt staining my jeans, and looked through the hole, and there was Mr. Hartley sitting in a lawn chair, reading a book. He was old, probably 70, with white hair that needed cutting and a weathered face that spoke of years spent outdoors. He was wearing a cardigan and slippers like someone's grandfather in a storybook. A cup of tea sat on the table beside him, steam rising in the summer air. He did not look dangerous. He looked lonely. He looked like the saddest person I had ever seen. He must have sensed me watching because he looked up. Our eyes met through the hole in the fence. I expected him to yell, to call my parents, to do something threatening. I braced myself for anger, for confrontation, for proof that my mother was right. Instead, he smiled. You lost something, he said. His voice was gentle, raspy with age. The voice of a man who had not spoken to anyone in a long time. My ball. It went over. I am sorry. Do not be sorry. These things happen. He stood up slowly, his joints creaking, and walked to where the ball had landed near his flower bed. He picked it up, examined it for a moment, then walked to the fence. He got down on his knees with a grunt of effort, and I could see his face more clearly now. Kind eyes, deep wrinkles, a face that had known sadness. He rolled the ball back through the hole. There you go, son. Thank you. You are welcome. He paused, looking at me through the hole. I should have left then. I should have taken the ball and run back inside like my mother had told me. But something kept me there. Some instinct that told me this man was not what my parents said he was. You are Marcus, right? The boy next door. Yes, sir. I am Walter. It is nice to finally meet you, Marcus. I have watched you grow up from over here. You were just a baby when I moved in. My parents say I should not talk to you. His face flickered with something. Pain maybe or just resignation. The expression of someone who had heard those words before and had learned to accept them. I know they do, and you should listen to your parents. They only want what is best for you. Then why are you talking to me? He was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with something I did not understand then, but recognize now as grief. Because you deserve kindness, Marcus. Every child deserves kindness. Even if it is just a word through a fence, I should have left. I should have reported the conversation to my parents. But I did not. Instead, I said, my grandfather gave me this ball before he died. It is special to me. Then you should take good care of it. Special things are hard to find. I will. Good. He started to get up, then paused. Marcus, if you ever want to talk, I am always here. Right on the other side of this fence. Just look through the hole and say hello. Okay. I ran back to the house, my heart pounding, the ball clutched to my chest. I did not tell my parents what had happened. I did not tell anyone, but I went back the next day. And the day after that, the hole in the fence became our secret. Every afternoon that summer, when my parents were distracted or arguing or just too wrapped up in their own lives to notice, I would sneak out to the fence. I would kneel in the grass and Walter would pull up his lawn chair on the other side and we would talk. First, we talked about small things, school, my friends, the books I was reading. He asked about my favorite subjects and I told him I liked history, that I thought it was like detective work, piecing together clues from the past to understand how we got to the present. He smiled at that. You have a curious mind, he said. That is a gift. Never lose it. He told me stories about his own life, places he had traveled when he was younger, countries I had only seen in textbooks. He had been to Italy and France and Egypt. He had seen the pyramids and the Eiffel Tower and the ruins of Pompeii. He described them in such detail that I could almost see them myself. Could almost feel the sand beneath my feet and the sun on my face. Why did you travel so much? I asked. Because I wanted to understand, he said. The world is so big, Marcus. So full of people and places and stories. I wanted to see as much of it as I could. Do you still travel? He shook his head. Not anymore. These days my world is this backyard, this chair, this fence. That sounds lonely. He looked at me with those kind sad eyes. It is, but it is a choice I made. And I would make it again. I did not understand what he meant. Not then. Sometimes he would reach through the hole and hand me things. Piece of candy. Comic book. Once a small wooden bird that he had carved himself. I used to carve all the time, he said when he gave it to me. When I was your age, my father taught me. He said it was good for the soul. Making something with your hands. It is beautiful. Keep it. Something to remember me by. I kept all of his gifts hidden in a shoe box under my bed. Terrified that my parents would find them and discover my secret. The candy I ate quickly, savoring each piece. The comic books I read by flashlight after bedtime. The wooden bird I held every night before I went to sleep, running my fingers over the smooth surface, wondering about the man who had made it. Those meetings continued for years through elementary school and middle school and the first years of high school. I would sneak out to the fence whenever I could, stealing moments with the old man my parents called dangerous. He watched me grow up through that hole in the fence. He celebrated my first day on a history test. I knew you would do well, he said. You have a natural talent for understanding the past. He consoled me when I did not make the basketball team. Not everyone is meant to be an athlete, he said. But you have other gifts. Gifts that will last longer than any game. He listened when I talked about girls I liked and friends who had betrayed me and all the small dramas of adolescence. Growing up is hard, he said. Harder than people remember, but you are handling it well, better than I did at your age. He was in many ways the only person who ever really listened to me. My parents were always distracted, always busy, always focused on their own problems, their own arguments, their own resentments. They provided for me materially, gave me food and clothes and a roof over my head. But emotionally, they were absent, cold. Walter filled that void. He gave me what my parents could not or would not give. Tension, validation, the sense that someone cared about who I was and what I thought and what I dreamed. I know now that I was starving for affection and he fed me one conversation at a time through a hole in a wooden fence. When I was 16, I got my driver's license. Suddenly, I had freedom. I could go places without my parents knowing. And the first place I went was around the block to the front of Mr. Hartley's house to knock on his door for the first time. My heart was pounding as I walked up his front steps. I had known this man for 9 years, had talked to him hundreds of times, but I had never actually set foot on his property. I had never seen the inside of his house. I had never looked at him without a fence between us. He opened the door slowly, his eyes widening when he saw me. Marcus, what are you doing here? I wanted to talk to you face to face for real. He looked past me toward my parents' house, toward the fence that separated us. Your parents would not approve. I do not care. I am 16. I can make my own decisions. He studied me for a long moment. I could see him weighing the risks, calculating the possible consequences. Then something shifted in his expression. A decision made. Come in, he said quickly. His house was small but warm. Books everywhere, stacked on every surface, overflowing from shelves that lined every wall. Novels, histories, biographies, travel guides, more books than I had ever seen in one place outside of a library. Photos on the walls showed landscapes and cityscapes from around the world. The places he had told me about. The pyramids, the Eiffel Tower, a young man standing on a mountain, arms spread wide, grinning at the camera. Is that you? I asked, pointing at the mountain photo. A long time ago, before everything changed. What changed? He did not answer. Instead, he gestured to the couch. Sit. I will make tea. The living room was cozy in a way my parents' house had never been. A fireplace with a worn armchair in front of it. A hand-knitted blanket draped over the couch. A cat I had never seen before sleeping on a windowsill. I did not know you had a cat. Her name is Shadow. She showed up a few years ago and never left. Sometimes the best family is the family that chooses you. He returned with 2 cups of tea and sat in the armchair across from me. For a moment, we just looked at each other. 2 people finally seeing each other clearly after years of fragments through a fence. It is strange, he said. Seeing you here in my home, I have imagined this moment so many times. Me too. You have grown into a fine young man, Marcus. I hope you know that. Thank you. I took a sip of tea. Earl Grey with honey. Mr. Hartley, can I ask you something? Anything? Why do my parents hate you so much? What did you do to them? The question hung in the air between us. I watched his face, looking for clues, looking for anything that might help me understand. He set down his teacup. That is a complicated question, Marcus. With a complicated answer, and I am not sure this is the right time. Please, I have been wondering for my whole life. I need to know. He was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with decades of regret. Some secrets are not mine to tell. Some truths would only cause pain. But I will tell you this. I have never done anything to harm your parents. Everything I have done because I love you. Love me. You barely know me. I know you better than you think. He looked at me with those sad eyes. I have watched you grow up. I have seen you struggle and succeed. I have seen the kind of person you are becoming, and I am proud of you, Marcus. Prouder than you will ever know. Why? Why would you be proud of me? I am just the kid next door. He opened his mouth to say something. Then stopped. I could see him wrestling with himself, fighting some internal battle I could not understand. Someday, he said finally. Someday I will tell you everything. But not today. Today, let us just enjoy this. You here in my home. After all these years, we talked for 3 hours that day. It was different from our conversations through the fence, more open, more real. I told him about my parents, about the coldness in our house, about how I sometimes felt like a stranger in my own family. He listened without judgment. And when I was done, he said something that stayed with me for years. Family is complicated, Marcus. Sometimes the people who should love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But that does not mean you are unlovable. It means they are broken in ways you cannot fix. Are you broken, Mr. Hartley? His eyes went distant. In some ways, yes, we all are. But some breaks heal and some do not. What broke you? He smiled sadly. The same thing that breaks everyone eventually. Lost regret, the weight of choices made long ago. I visited him regularly after that, twice a week, sometimes more. My parents never knew. They never asked where I was going, never seemed to notice my absences. They were too wrapped up in their own lives, their own problems, their own slowly crumbling marriage. When I left for college at 18, Mr. Hartley was the only one who cried. I am so proud of you, he said, hugging me on his front porch. It was the first time he had ever hugged me. He felt frail in my arms, smaller than I expected, his bones thin beneath his cardigan. Whatever happens, remember that I will come back and visit. I know you will. And you will be here. I will always be here, Marcus. Right next door, waiting. And I did come back. Every break, every summer, I made time for him. Even as my life got busier. As I went to graduate school and got my teaching degree. As I got married to a woman named Jennifer, who never quite understood why I spent so much time with that weird old neighbor. I never forgot the man who had shown me kindness when no one else would. Jennifer and I divorced after 6 years. We wanted different things. She said we were different people. She was not wrong. I had always held part of myself back. Always kept secrets from her. Always felt like I was living a double life. The life everyone saw and the life that existed in a small house next door to my parents. When I told Walter about the divorce, he listened quietly. I am sorry, Marcus. Marriage is hard, even harder when there are things you cannot share. What do you mean? Nothing. Just an old man's observation. But something had changed over the years. In my 20s, our conversations grew shorter. He seemed tired, distracted. Sometimes he would look at me with an expression I could not read. Like he wanted to say something but could not find the words. Is everything okay? I asked once, just old age catching up with me. He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. Nothing to worry about. I worried anyway. In my 30s, he started declining. His memory slipped. He would repeat stories he had told me before, forget names and dates, lose track of what we were talking about mid-sentence. His mobility worsened. He stopped traveling even to the grocery store, relying on delivery services and the occasional help I could provide. I offered to help him move to find a place that could care for him properly. No, he said firmly. I am staying here. I have to stay here. Why? The house is too big for you. It is too much work. There are places with nurses, with doctors, with people who can help you. He looked at me with those sad, tired eyes, because this is where you are, Marcus. This is where I can see you. I did not understand what he meant. Not then. The last time I saw him alive was 2 weeks before the funeral. He was in the hospital, his body finally giving out after 90 years of use. I sat by his bed, holding his hand, watching his chest rise and fall. I should have told you, he whispered. His voice was barely audible over the beeping of machines. I should have told you years ago. Told me what? What should you have told me? But his eyes had closed. He slipped into sleep. And I never got my answer. Not while he was alive. Until the funeral. Until the lawyer, until the envelope. I opened it in my car, hands trembling. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray. The air still heavy with moisture. I sat in the cemetery parking lot, surrounded by headstones and silence, and I read the letter that would change everything. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper covered in handwriting. I recognized the same handwriting that had labeled birthday present slipped through the fence. The same handwriting on the notes tucked inside comic books. The same handwriting I had seen on the spines of journals in his study. Walter's handwriting to my grandson Marcus. If you are reading this, I am gone and you finally know the truth. I am sorry it took my death to tell you. I am sorry for all the years of silence. But I need you to understand why. Your father is my son. His name was not always Richard Webb. It was Richard Hartley. He was my boy, my only child, the center of my world. After his mother passed when he was just 10 years old, I raised him alone. I gave him everything I had. I loved him more than life itself. And then 45 years ago, he did something terrible. I will not tell you what it was. Not in this letter. The evidence is in my attic in a box labeled The Truth. You will find everything there. Photographs, documents, newspaper clippings, a letter in his own handwriting, everything you need to understand what happened and why. When I confronted your father about what he did, he gave me a choice. Stay silent or lose him forever. I could not stay silent. I could not pretend I did not know what I knew. So, he cut me out of his life, changed his name, moved away, started over with a new identity, a new story, a new father who conveniently did not exist. He told everyone I was dead. He told you I was dead, but I could not let you go. You were my grandson, my blood, the only family I had left. So, I did something that some might call crazy. I sold everything I owned, my business, my investments, everything, and I bought the house next door to his. I wanted to watch you grow up. I wanted to be near you, even if I could not be part of your life. Your father recognized me immediately. Of course, he could not stop me from buying the house, but he could make sure you never knew who I was. He told you I was dangerous. He built fences and filed lawsuits and did everything he could to keep us apart. But he could not stop me from loving you. He could not stop me from finding ways to reach you. The hole in the fence, the gifts, the conversations. Every moment with you was a gift I did not deserve but treasured beyond measure. I am leaving you everything I have. The house, my savings, everything. It is not much, but it is yours. More importantly, I am leaving you the truth. What you do with it is up to you. I am not asking you to destroy your father. I am just asking you to know who I was, who he is, and to understand that you are loved. Every single day of your life, you were loved by someone who was forbidden to tell you. I watched your first steps through a window. I heard your first words through a fence. I celebrated every achievement from a distance. Unable to embrace you, unable to tell you how proud I was. But I was always there, always watching, always loving. I am proud of the man you have become. I only wish I could have told you sooner. I only wish things had been different. Your grandfather, Walter Hartley. P.S. Do not be too hard on yourself for not seeing it sooner. The best lies are the ones we tell ourselves. And your father had 45 years of practice. I sat in my car for an hour reading the letter over and over. My hands were shaking. My vision was blurred with tears. I did not remember starting to cry. My grandfather, the old man next door, the man my parents had called dangerous, had built walls against, had sued and harassed and tried to drive away for 4 decades. He was my grandfather. And my father had done something so terrible that he had changed his name and built a new identity just to escape it. What could be that bad? What could be worth 45 years of lies? I drove to Walter's house. My house now. I suppose the lawyer had given me the keys along with the letter. I let myself in and climbed the stairs to the attic. The house was quiet. Shadow the cat was gone. Taken to a shelter after Walter went to the hospital. The books were still there. Gathering dust. The photos still hung on the walls, but the life was gone. The warmth had faded. The attic was cramped and dark, filled with boxes and old furniture, and the accumulated debris of a long life. But the box was exactly where he said it would be. Old cardboard, dusty with age, the words, "The Truth," written on the side in faded black marker. I carried it downstairs to the living room, to the armchair where Walter used to sit. I poured myself a glass of whiskey from a bottle I found in his kitchen. And then I opened the box. Inside were newspaper clippings, yellowed and brittle with age. Photographs, legal documents, letters, a whole history of something I had never known existed. The first clipping was from 1979. A local newspaper from a town I had never heard of, maybe 50 miles from where we live now. The headline read, "Hit and Run Leaves Young Mother Dead." The article described how a woman named Sarah Martinez, 28 years old, had been struck by a vehicle while crossing the street near her home. It was late at night around 11:30. She had been walking home from her sister's house just 3 blocks away. The driver had fled the scene. She died at the hospital 3 hours later, never regaining consciousness. She left behind a husband named Roberto and 2 young children. Michael, age 7. Elena, age 4. The driver was never found, but Walter had found him. There were photographs in the box. Photographs of my father's car from that time. A blue Ford Mustang with damage to the front bumper and passenger side. Photographs of the intersection where Sarah Martinez died. Showing skid marks on the pavement. Photographs of repair receipts paid in cash at a body shop 2 towns over dated 2 days after the accident. There was a police report obtained somehow showing that witnesses had described a blue sports car fleeing the scene. The license plate had been obscured by mud. The case went cold within a month. And then there was the letter, a letter from my father to Walter, dated 1979. In his own handwriting. The same handwriting I had seen on birthday cards and permission slips my entire life. "Dad, I know you know. I could see it in your eyes when I came home that night. The way you looked at me, the way you looked at the car. I was drunk. I did not see her until it was too late. She came out of nowhere and then there was this horrible sound and I just panicked. I drove away. I know it was wrong. I know I should have stopped, but I was scared, Dad. I was so scared. Please do not tell anyone. Please, I will never drink again. I will never drive drunk again. I will do whatever you want. Just please, please keep this secret. If you love me, you will do this for me. Your son, Richard." The letter was dated 3 weeks after the accident. 3 weeks of my father carrying the secret, watching the news, waiting to be caught, and then confessing to the one person he thought would protect him. Walter had kept the secret for a while. There were more letters in the box. A response from Walter to my father. Dated 1980. "Richard, I have tried to live with this. God knows I have tried, but every night I close my eyes and I see that woman. I see her children at the funeral, too young to understand why their mother is not coming home. I see her husband destroyed by grief. You have to turn yourself in. It is the only way to make this right. Those children deserve to know what happened to their mother. They deserve justice. And you deserve a chance at redemption, not a lifetime of running. I love you. I will always love you. But I cannot keep this secret any longer. If you do not go to the police by the end of the month, I will. Your father." My father's response was short, written in a hand that was almost illegible, shaking with anger or fear or both. "If you tell anyone, I will disappear. I will change my name. I will move away. You will never see me again. And if I ever have children, you will never meet them. Is that what you want? To lose your only son? To never know your grandchildren? This is your choice, Dad. Not mine, yours. It was not an empty threat. It was a promise. And Walter had made his choice. He had chosen justice over silence. He had told my father he was going to the police. And my father had made good on his word. He vanished, changed his name from Hartley to Webb, moved across the state, married my mother, who either never knew the truth or chose to ignore it. And Walter, left with nothing, had made a different kind of choice. He had found where his son had moved. He had bought the house next door. And he had waited 40 years. He had waited 40 years, watching his grandson grow up from behind a fence, stealing moments through a hole in the wood, loving me the only way he was allowed to. I stayed in that attic all night, reading everything. By morning, I had the full picture. Sarah Martinez, killed on March 15, 1979. 2 children, Michael and Elena, who grew up without a mother. A husband who tried to hold it together for 5 years before the grief and the alcohol consumed him. He died in 1984, the same year I was born, the same year Walter moved next door. A family destroyed by one man's cowardice. A family that never got justice. I had a choice to make. The confrontation happened 3 days later. 3 days of sleepless nights and endless questions. 3 days of looking at my face in the mirror and trying to see my father, trying to see the man who had killed a woman and walked away. I called ahead, told my mother I was coming for dinner. She sounded surprised but pleased. That is wonderful, Marcus. Your father has been asking about you. I bet he has, I thought. I bet he has been asking about me ever since Walter died. I arrived at 7. The same house I had grown up in. The same perfectly manicured lawn. The same American flag by the door. But now it all looked different. Now I saw it for what it was. A stage set. A carefully constructed illusion of respectability built on the foundation of a lie. My father was in his study when I arrived reading a book. He was 72 now, retired from the insurance company where he had worked for 30 years. His hair was white, his face lined with age. He looked like any other grandfather, but he was not. He was a killer who had gotten away with it. Marcus, he looked up from his book. This is a surprise. Your mother said you were coming for dinner. We need to talk first. You and me and Mom right now. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Fear. What about? I threw the box on his desk. The box from Walter's attic. The box labeled the truth. My father's face went pale. Where did you get that? From my grandfather. He left it to me in his will. The silence stretched between us. My father stared at the box like it was a bomb about to explode. He is dead? He finally asked. Yes, he died last week. I was the only one at his funeral. His only family. He was not your family. He was more family to me than you have ever been. My mother appeared in the doorway wearing an apron, a wooden spoon in her hand. What is going on? Dinner is almost ready. Dinner can wait. I said we need to talk about Sarah Martinez. The color drained from both their faces. I do not know what you are talking about, my father said. Really? Then maybe this will refresh your memory. I opened the box, pulled out the newspaper clipping, and threw it on his desk. March 15, 1979. Hit and run. 28-year-old mother of 2. Ring any bells? Marcus, I do not know where you got this, but how about this? I pulled out the photographs of his car, the repair receipts, the letter, his letter in his own handwriting, confessing everything. My father's hands were shaking. That was a long time ago. 45 years. 45 years since you killed her and drove away. It was an accident. You were drunk. You fled the scene. You let her die alone on the street. That is not an accident. That is a crime. I was 23 years old. I was scared. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is missing an appointment. Killing someone and running away is not a mistake. It is a choice. You do not understand. Then make me understand. Make me understand how you could leave a woman dying in the street. Make me understand how you could cut off your own father for trying to do the right thing. Make me understand how you could raise me with lies. Make me hate the only person who ever truly loved me. My mother started crying. My father sank into his chair, his face gray. I was going to lose everything. He said, if I went to the police, I would have gone to prison. My career would have been over. My life would have been over. Her life was over. Her children's lives were destroyed. Her husband drank himself to death. And you got everything. Career, family, a nice house in the suburbs. I have lived with the guilt every day. Have you? Because from where I stand, it looks like you have lived very comfortably. You have had 45 years of barbecues and holidays and grandchildren who never existed while Sarah Martinez's children grew up without a mother. What do you want me to say? I want you to say you are sorry. I want you to say you will make it right. It is too late to make it right. The statute of limitations. There is no statute of limitations on murder. It was not murder. It was manslaughter. And the limit on that ran out decades ago. Is that what you tell yourself? That it does not count because you got away with it. My father had no answer. I gathered up the contents of the box. I am taking this and I am going to do what Walter should have done 45 years ago. I am going to find Sarah Martinez's children and I am going to tell them what happened to their mother. Marcus, please. My mother's voice was choked with tears. Think about what you are doing. This will destroy us. You destroyed yourselves 45 years ago. They will not believe you. My father said, "It is your word against mine. There is no proof. I have your confession in your own handwriting. I have photographs, receipts, police reports. Walter spent 40 years building a case against you. He just never got the chance to use it." My father's face crumbled. He was going to turn me in. He was going to give you a chance to do the right thing. You chose to run instead. You chose yourself over a dead woman and her children. And then you punished him for it. Lawsuits, harassment, a 10-foot fence. You tried to destroy him and all he did was love me. I was protecting my family. You were protecting yourself. You always have been. I walked to the door. Marcus. My father's voice stopped me. What are you going to tell them? Sarah's children. I turned back. The truth. That their mother was killed by a man who was too much of a coward to face the consequences and that she deserves justice even if it is 45 years late. Finding Sarah Martinez's children was not hard. I am a history teacher. I know how to research. Michael Martinez was 52 now, a mechanic in Toledo. Elena Martinez Cooper was 49, a nurse in Cleveland. Both married, both with children of their own, children who had never known their grandmother. I called Michael first. "Mr. Martinez, my name is Marcus Webb. I have information about your mother's death." There was a long pause. My mother died in 1979. Hit and run. They never found the driver. I know who the driver was. Another pause. Longer this time. "Who are you?" "I am his son and I have evidence." We met in person a week later. Michael and Elena together at a coffee shop in Cleveland. They looked nothing like I expected. Just normal people, middle-aged, tired, carrying decades of unresolved grief. I gave them the box. They read everything. The clippings, the photographs, the confession letter. By the time they finished, Elena was crying silently and Michael's hands were shaking with rage. "All this time," he said. "All this time, he was out there living his life. I know. We were kids. We used to pray every night that they would find him, that there would be justice. I know, and I am sorry. Why are you doing this? He is your father." I thought about Walter, about the hole in the fence, about 40 years of stolen moments and secret kindnesses. Because my grandfather spent his whole life trying to do the right thing, and because you deserve to know. The legal situation was complicated. 45 years had passed. The statute of limitations for vehicular manslaughter had long since expired. My father could not be prosecuted, but that did not mean there could not be consequences. Michael and Elena filed a civil suit. They went to the press. The story of the hit and run of the cover-up of the 45 years of lies made national news. My father's carefully constructed life crumbled. His friends abandoned him. His neighbors, the ones who had supported his war against Walter all those years, were horrified to learn the truth. My mother, finally forced to confront the reality of who she had married, moved out. And me, I inherited Walter's house. I moved in. I started a new chapter of my life in the home of the grandfather. I never knew I had. I found more of his things as I settled in. Photo albums filled with pictures of me taken from a distance, through windows, and across yards. A journal where he wrote about our conversations through the fence, documenting every word, every laugh, every moment of connection. Birthday cards he had never been able to send. Addressed to my grandson, Marcus, stored in a drawer with stamps that were never used. He had loved me every single day for 40 years. He had loved me. And I had never known who he really was. I visit his grave every Sunday now. I tell him about my week, about my students, about the small victories and minor setbacks of an ordinary life. And I tell him that I finally understand why he stayed, why he watched from behind the fence, why he never gave up. Family is complicated. Sometimes the people who should love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But sometimes the ones who seem like strangers are the ones who love us most of all. Walter Hartley was not a dangerous man. He was a grandfather who would not give up on his grandson no matter what it cost him. He sacrificed everything, his relationship with his son, his peace of mind, his entire life just to be near me. That is the kind of love I never knew existed. That is the kind of love I want to honor. Michael and Elena come to visit sometimes. We have become something like family, bound together by tragedy and truth. They tell me about their mother, about the person she was before my father took her from them. And I tell them about Walter, about the quiet hero who spent 40 years next door, waiting for a chance to make things right. The fence is gone now. I tore it down the week I moved in. There is nothing separating the two properties anymore. Just open grass leading from one house to the other. My father wrote me a letter last month. He is living in Florida now, alone. His reputation destroyed. He says he is sorry. He says he understands why I did what I did. He says he hopes someday I can forgive him. I have not written back. Maybe I will someday. Maybe forgiveness is possible even for something like this. But right now I am still processing, still grieving, still trying to understand how the man who raised me could have been so monstrous and how the man I was taught to fear could have been so kind. History is not just dates and names. It is people. Ordinary people making choices that ripple forward through time. My father made a choice 45 years ago. He chose to run. He chose to hide. He chose himself over a dying woman and her children. Walter made a different choice. He chose to stay. He chose to watch. He chose to love his grandson from behind a fence, even when he was forbidden to speak. I am making my own choice now. I am choosing truth over lies. I am choosing justice over silence. I am choosing to be the kind of man Walter believed I could be. The fence is gone. The secrets are out. The truth finally is free.